our meeting to get to public comment.
Thank you. And I thank you all for letting us have the time to hear our voices. It's been a struggle to have that done, so I do appreciate each and every one of you. My name is Angie Edwards, and I'm here to request change for Quitman School. On May 15th of this year, I was made aware of my son and others being a target of bullying, humiliation, and sexual abuse, hazing, among other things, in the Quitman football locker room. The next day, my husband, my son, and I met with the principal, Mr. Stacks, and the head coach, Mr. Mars, where we were promised action would be taken, and it hasn't. After more than a week had passed, and I had not been contacted by anyone regarding the abuse, I myself made the report. I made the call to the hotline. From then on, all reporting was done by the victims' families. We have still not had one phone call from Mr. Stacks or Mr. Mars. Quitman School is a mandated reporting facility. This means coaches and principals are required to immediately report any kind of abuse. It is not their job to do an investigation and decide if it should be reported. There are many statutes stating these requirements that the state and those in authority have chosen not to follow. I request that this is looked into with the utmost diligence, as frustration of things getting swept under the rug. Meanwhile, children continue to be abused. Football players spent a lot of free time in the locker room unsupervised. Coaches are down a small hallway, but supposedly can hear anything that they need to. If they were listening, they would have heard my son's screams. My son is 90 pounds, maybe 5 foot tall, while a 6 foot, 170-pound teammate held him down. Another child, I call them children, held his face so that his mouth was open, while yet another teammate put his crotch in his face. The screams of my son, I believe, were heard, but were ignored because this behavior is condoned and encouraged by coaches. Somewhere it got started that bullying, humiliation, and stripping the kids of their dignity as a form of passage would somehow make them better players. This lack of supervision in the locker room is unacceptable and would not be tolerated in any other classroom. Hazing is out of control and has become a sexual perversion that, if was done by an adult, would result in jail time. I request a change. If I could demand a change, I would. But I am requesting a change to require coaches to be a presence in the locker room of some kind, and maybe even audio surveillance to help this from happening anymore. I also request that hazing practices be taken seriously and a severe punishment to save all of our kids from having this done any further. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Edwards. Stephanie White.
Before I start speaking, I did write our school 2 letters to the school board, and everyone had shut me out. No one has tried to listen at all, and I have a copy of those if you would like them.
Thank you.
My son was hurt, humiliated, traumatized, and violated during junior high football at Quitman Public Schools. The principal, Mr. Stacks, and the head coach, DJ Mars, and the SRO, Mandy Love, have gone out of their way to neglect the safety of children in this school. 4 parents reported the physical and sexual abuse happening in the locker room. I was told they would take this very seriously, that they would take our children to the safety center for a full investigation and questioning, and none of this ever happened. Instead of reporting as mandated, they decided to conduct their own investigation and choose to support the deviants and let them harm continue. I went to the school board meeting, tried to communicate. They wouldn't take my letters. The principal of the school board, Julie Varvel, spun around with her finger in my face and told me if I didn't like it, I could go somewhere else. And I said, what would you do if it was your kids? And she said, my kids are fighters. My child should never have to physically fight to defend himself or others, but he did many times in that locker room. He was fighting older boys that would say, "All right, it's your turn now," like this was an initiation to big boy football. The abuse consisted of being bull-whipped, sometimes with the whip and sometimes just the stick of the whip. Shot at close range with BB guns and Orbeez guns, told to run from one campus to the football field, and then ambushed with hundreds of bullets once in the locker room. His head slammed into lockers 7 times the last day he went. He was held down sexually and humped. They've ripped him out of his locker, humping him from behind. There's video of Cash being held down, of what Angie shared earlier. 4 boys have pled guilty to assault, battery, and harassment. 1 pled no contest and was charged the same. The last boy is scheduled for October. His order states that he is not to be around co-defendants or victims until after his court appearance. He is currently playing quarterback for junior high football at Quitman. 3 of the boys have testified that this abuse and harassment happened to them in the past. The lack of supervision has allowed this to happen under the athletic director and head coach. We will never know the impact that this has had on their physical and mental health. This principal has been at every court date supporting the assaulters and their families. He put his hands over his ears and mumbled while his mothers gave our victim impact statements. The administration found a loophole in the no contact orders made by the judge to continue playing football instead of standing up for the abused children. These boys have been convicted of serious crimes in court, but placed on a pedestal as football stars at Quitman Public Schools. Eli has gone through horrible trauma and violence. He has been assaulted in a place that was supposed to be safe. He has been made fearful of a team and a sport he has loved. He's been put in situations a child should never be put in, and at the end of the day, he's had no one in authority stand up for him or any other child on that team. He did not return to school this year. Your intervention is vital for Quitman School District. Students for generations will be impacted by your decisions today. Mr. Stacks is the principal, the athletic director, and the assistant superintendent. He will be the next superintendent when Mr. Truxler retires in the next year. He is one man with all the power in the school. He could have taken care of this horrific situation. He could have protected these boys and others. He could have set a precedent of safety above all for the entire district. Unfortunately, he has chosen to use his power and influence to go out of his way to deny it, cover it up, and protect the assaulters. He brought the coaches, the superintendent, and the local school board right along with him. We need leadership who will take care of our children. We need accountability for those who are supposed to protect and teach and lead them. We taught our children to trust these men. We teach our children to ask for help and seek authority when someone is hurting or wronging them. Our children have been ignored, threatened, bullied, and laughed at. Our boys have been hurt beyond our understanding. They have stood up for themselves and their teammates. They are walking in a fire against teenage predators and adults who encourage them. We are walking in that fire with them, and we ask that you will too. Show them that wrongdoing comes with consequences, that there's a school system who does care for them above all else. Show them that their lives have value, that their stories have meaning. Please protect them. One of the boys who pled guilty has come forward this year with his parents and reported it twice that I know of, that sexual abuse is still going on in the senior high locker room this year. But it has gotten worse. They are penetrating with fingers now to the new players. This has to stop. Please help these children who just want to play football without losing their innocence or worse, committing suicide, or an act like something we've all seen in Georgia last week. My soul is broken. We are counting on you to please step in and help. Well, I would like to request the immediate removal of Michael Stacks and DJ Mars and stop all football-related sports until a full investigation and all threats of violence are removed. Safety for the children should be everyone's first priority. Every child in Quitman deserves a good life, good memories of football, and not harm created and coached by the adults who are supposed to protect them. Thank you for hearing me.
Thank you, Ms. White. All signed up to speak about Quitman. Next, we have Adi Allenbaugh.
Thank you for the opportunity. You guys know that I'm an advocate, and I've advocated for students all over the state for free. In my estimation, I think I have attended over 2,000 meetings for kids, and I've advocated for over 4,000 students statewide. Rarely do I come before you, and when I do, it's pretty bad. I will tell you, when these parents reached out to me on June the 14th, my world stood still. This is the most horrific thing that I've ever witnessed, and the response from the district is just as horrific. If these things had occurred in a home, any home, these children would be removed from that home, and the fact that this has been allowed to go on in a public school setting that we are all paying for makes me absolutely sick. When in the world did we go from a state that has moved the accountability from the shoulder of the bully to the back of the victim? The school has done the most to protect the perpetrators and not the victims. And this is wrong at every level. That's all I got to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Melanie Fox signed up.
Good afternoon. As a former school board member, I know there is a chain, a process of where to go for help. And I've helped Ms. Allenbaugh and these parents try to follow that chain. But at every level, the adults have failed these people. And so that is the only reason we're here today, is because the prosecutor, the judge was good, the school, the police department have all failed these kids. And somebody needs to stand up and do right by them. So I would appreciate anything you all could do to help. I know you're limited, but we need to bring this to your attention because it continues to happen. There was a case in Huntsville where they had the same thing happen in the locker room. And we've got to put a stop to it. So thank you.